Okay, so this tutorial is going to take you through a great little function called an if function. We'll also be looking at a special kind of cell reference which enables us to lock a cell in place, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. So first of all, this if function. An if function is a question that we can put into a spreadsheet that enables an option of different responses. So, for example, this is my school test results for my fictional class, and I have the students' test marks, and I want to write in the result whether the students have passed or failed. So I could go through and I could just simply write in, depending upon whether or not it's above the 60% pass rate that's down here. But again, if this was a whole year group or a cohort or a large number of students, this would take some time. So I'm going to set up a system whereby the computer will read what is in this cell here, the test mark, compare it against this test mark here, and then provide me with a resulted value, either true or false. Okay, so let's start with an if statement. Every formula must start with an equals, so we start with equals. If is a function rather than a basic formula, so it requires a command word. And that command word for if is as simple as if. So when I type in if, it does have, and it lists underneath the type of ifs that I'm using. It is useful to actually click on these links, because by clicking on the link it gives me a little handy helper to remind me what the formula should consist of. So if I click on if, I get this little yellow box underneath. So if, open brackets, logical test, comma, value of true, comma, value of false, close brackets. Okay, so let me explain that. Open brackets. First of all, the logical test. I want to ask, is this result here equal to or greater than this pass rate? Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to first of all use this cell reference, D4. I can use it just by clicking in it, and it appears in my formula. So if D4 is greater than or equal to B14. That is my logical test. If D4 is greater than or equal to B14. Now, I want to put in a comma, because my little instructions down here tell me that I need a comma after my logical test and before my value of true, then after my value of true, before my value of false. Commas just separate the different parts of the functions up. So we say comma. In this case, if 80% is greater than or equal to 60%, I would like the result to be the word pass. So I use speech marks for this, and I type in what I would like the resulted value of true to be. Again, and now I'm going to put in my value of false using a comma. I can open up another speech marks, and this one will say fail. So if D4 is greater than or equal to B14, if the value is true, then it will say pass. If the value is false, it will say fail. So when I press enter, this student here has passed. Okay. Now, it should be as easy as just copying this down using the fill handle right here in the bottom right hand corner. There is a tutorial on fill handle if you're not sure what that does. But if I copy this down, it is going to produce an error, and I want to show you why. So if I drag this cell down, all of these ones here say that they have passed. But I can see that Draco Malloy here only got 35%, which is clearly not greater than or equal to 60. So there's an issue. The issue is when you use the fill handle to drag down, the cell references in my formula here, D4 and B14, when I use the fill handle, these cell references automatically move down into the corresponding row that it's referring to. This is called relevant cell referencing, so it moves into the relevant row. Okay? But the problem being is that I don't really want this cell reference to move at all, because if this moves, then it's looking into an empty cell. And that is, so what I'm going to do is a skill called absolute cell referencing. This will stop me from having to move the cell references down when I copy the data. So if I open this data here, this one is looking in cells D5 and B15. That's the incorrect cell reference for where I want to go. So I'm just going to delete these copied cells. And once I've deleted these copied cells, I'm going to lock this particular cell reference here, B14. So I'm going to make this what's called an absolute cell reference. And I do that by adding a dollar symbol before and after the letter value of the cell reference. So I find the dollar symbol on my keyboard, and the dollar symbol goes once before and once after the letter symbol. Now when I press enter, if I fill copy that down and I open up one of these, this cell reference here, D7, has still moved in relation to what row it is on, but B14 has remained the same, locked in place by the absolute cell reference.